All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started, and then if anybody else joins, then they can go ahead and get any questions answered at the end as well. And the meeting is recorded in case you do miss anything, and then there's going to be a summary at the end of the meeting to kind of go over everything. But thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join the webinar today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is how to start a post-secondary / collegiate chapter. Oops. Sorry, my slides don't want to move. Okay, there we go. Okay, so who am I? My name is Hannah Jason. I am a third year or rising junior third year student at UW in Seattle. I'm on a pre-dental track, so I'm taking the classes for like the average classes that most dental schools require, but I'm majoring in sociology, so I'm kind of taking a different route and kind of balancing like both science and then social science because I've always had more of an interest in social science as well, so I didn't want to kind of limit myself to that. And I'm currently the UW HOSA president, and I have been for the past 2 years. It was kind of dead when I became a freshman, and so that's something that I've been navigating, is getting it back up and running. And then I am currently the Washington HOSA Postsecondary Collegiate VP, so I kind of oversee all of like the post-secondary membership and stuff, and so that's why we're doing this today, is because we really want to increase our membership at that level. It's just, I think especially with COVID, it kind of, the momentum on that kind of stopped, and so that's what we're trying to pick back up. And I've been a HOSA member for about 5 years. I think it's about to be 6 years. So I've been in a HOSA for a while, and I've always enjoyed it. So yeah, and then just some small housekeeping. There's a lot of information in this webinar that I'm going to be sharing, so I encourage you guys to jot down some notes and any questions that you have as they come up, just to get them asked at the end, just to make it a little bit easier. And then my email is here as well. It'll also be on the last slide in case you aren't able to get it down now, but if you wanted to have that, it's right there. All right, and then just a quick overview about what HOSA is and like our mission and goals, in case you have never been a HOSA member or don't know anything about HOSA. So our mission is, sorry, this isn't in my way, to provide future health professionals with knowledge, skills, and experiences they need to become leaders in the field of international health. So one of the things that I love the most about HOSA is the career exploration. I think that I kind of always knew I wanted to do dentistry, but it honestly got like super solidified when I went to my first state conference and got to listen to an orthodontist talk about her work and like her journey into dentistry. And I think that kind of really solidified it for me. And I know that I've talked to other people that totally switched their like future career path because of HOSA. So that's one of my favorite parts. And then our goals. This is not our full goals, because our full goals are like up on the website. It just overall is very in-depth, but these are the ones that I feel like resonate the most with me personally, and then also with just people that I know within HOSA. So promoting the overall well-being of our members, developing leadership skills, character, confidence, teamwork skills, communication skills, and much more. And I think definitely through HOSA, my leadership skills have been improved the most. And then also everyone that's joining, thank you guys for coming. The meeting is recorded, and I'm going to give an end of meeting summary at the end for anything that you guys may have missed. And then also, these are some important values of HOSA. So learning, we're committed to learning and becoming respected, knowledgeable, and skilled health professionals. I think that starting this early within healthcare is super important, because it really just kind of teaches you things that may be hard to learn when you're kind of navigating, especially like through med school or dental school and that kind of stuff. Like you're already so stressed that sometimes I feel like it could be easy to get lost in the overall picture. So I think starting now is one thing that I really like about HOSA. Okay. And then service, we're dedicated to serving others with compassion. We believe that individuals are important and we will treat everyone with respect and care. And service is a big part of HOSA, not only just serving in everyday life, but also service projects and stuff like that. And then leadership, we will serve as role models in our academic program, profession, and community. We will be ethical, accountable, and trustworthy, and we will use our influence to empower others to strive for excellence. I think that leadership is one of the biggest parts of healthcare. If you don't have good leadership, it can be very hard to get lost in all of the aspects of healthcare because it's not an easy route, just overall. Okay, so an overview of what I'm going to be talking about in relation to starting a chapter. First, we're going to start out with membership recruitment. So that's just kind of the initial, just like getting the word out, like, I want to do this. I want to start a HOSA chapter. Like, I need to get people interested. And then officer team establishment. So recruiting and establishing your team. And then advisor recruitment, finding a faculty member to be your advisor. This is mandatory. And then school affiliation, registering your chapter with your school, just gives you access to funding and more resources on campus. And then the national and state affiliation is kind of the last step. So registering your chapter with Washington HOSA and National HOSA so that you can get all the benefits and be actual HOSA members. And then what follows after that. Okay. So first, we're going to start with membership recruitment. So finding your people. This is, I think, the most fun part. So I put this quote here: the greatness of community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. So within HOSA, I think that especially starting, it can feel pretty discouraging when like nobody's like, if you don't have people coming to your meetings, or like you're not getting the attendance that you want. But I think it's also important to kind of remind yourself that if you do have a small amount of members that are super passionate about this and really want to do it, then that's okay. That will like spread out, and like having that compassion and having that drive will just slowly kind of like bleed out into the people that you talk to and connections that you make throughout school, especially if you're a freshman. Obviously, you're not going in knowing a bunch of people, but that first kind of like first quarter, even first month, you're going to start meeting a lot of people, and you're going to see how like you'll create a bit of a greater influence. Because I know it's going to feel overwhelming like the first like week, or like especially if you're starting this, if you want to start as early as possible, and you feel like you don't know people, just kind of keep that in mind, that if you have a strong group, then it'll become easier throughout. All right, so attracting members. First, we'll start with like personal connections. That could be anyone that you did HOSA with in high school, and they're going to the same college as you. Definitely reach out to them. Maybe somebody in your class, like first week that you're talking to, if you're talking to them and they're interested in healthcare, let them know that you're doing this. Create that connection, get that contact information. That's one of the biggest things that I think I had trouble with, was like talking to people about HOSA, being like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this, and they seem interested, and then I kind of forget to like make that deeper connection, getting the contact information to like let them know later. And then advertising, so flyers are always a good idea. Creating a social media presence, something that's like fun and engaging, so that you can share on your own personal stories, you can share with your friends, ask them to share it. And then sharing that information in your classes. So one thing that I did was, some of my STEM classes, we have like a Discord to just like help with like studying and help with like questions. And so I would kind of plug HOSA in the Discord, which you totally can do. Or you can, if you have like a smaller class size, I know that this is kind of hard to do at UW just because our classes are like huge. But like maybe like talking to your professor and asking them if they're comfortable like sharing the information like in a like lecture slide, like in the beginning of class. I know that they've done that for like blood drives and stuff like that, personally, that I've seen in like my biology classes. So that could definitely be something you could try. And it also helps you create a little bit of a relationship with your professor, which is a good thing to do because especially on a pre-health track, letters of recommendation, it happens so fast and you kind of forget about it. So that can be useful as well. And then using your resources. So activities fairs, every school is going to be different, but I know that I'll kind of get into this later, but like at UW, you can't like table at our like activities fair unless you're like a registered RSO. So kind of like the affiliation part, but some schools definitely may be different. So that could be an option for you. Connecting with other pre-health clubs. I don't think there shouldn't be any like competition type of thing. That's not really, especially because HOSA is like it's a different kind of organization. It's not like a club. It's more of like it's an organization. It is a club like on campus, but it's an organization, which I think makes HOSA very different from a lot of pre-health clubs, because I know that like at UW, any pre-health clubs that we have, a lot of them are just like strictly to UW. So HOSA is a lot bigger. And then speaking to pre-health advisors, if you do have a pre-health advisor, they can definitely be a great resource to help you out. I personally don't have any experience with that because we don't actually have pre-health advisors at UW, but I know that a lot of other schools do. And so I'm sure that they would be a great resource to reach out to. All right. So now we're going to talk about a checklist when recruiting face-to-face. So you want to introduce yourself and talk about what healthcare profession you have interest in, just because this can kind of help you create a connection based on shared interests. I know that anytime I talk to another pre-dental student, we kind of like get giddy almost, and like it's super exciting to like find people like in any circle that have the same interests as you, or sparked curiosity. I would say I've talked to, especially this year, I got introduced to a lot of pre-PA students, which I didn't really know what like a physician's assistant was. And so it was really cool getting to learn about that from them. And so, yeah, it can kind of spark curiosity if you're still in between, like not knowing what you want to do within healthcare. And that kind of can extend out to them and get them interested. And then you want to explain what HOSA is and the mission of the organization, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But as much as you know about HOSA, and then as well as you kind of want to share your own personal experiences with HOSA, I think that's one of the best ways to get people interested. Just because like when you talk about the fun stuff, I definitely think so far from experience, it does spark more curiosity in people. But then also talking about the connections that you make is also really important, because I mean, we are human, and so we kind of strive off of connection. And so I think that is always a good way to spark that. And then you I would definitely share that you're starting a new chapter, just so they know that this is something that's new. This is something that's going to be maybe a little bit different from other clubs that they could join that are already established, and definitely express your personal excitement and your drive for taking on this challenge. It can help to get other people excited about it as well. And if you have any established social media handles so far for your chapter, definitely share that with them so they can keep updated, and then get their personal contact information, definitely their email. And then if they're comfortable, get their phone number. So calling prospective members to like inform them about the first meeting is definitely a way to kind of create a deeper connection. And then also it'll make them feel like, oh, like they wanted to reach out to me. They want me to be here. And I think it definitely makes them more inclined to come to the meeting. But don't call them too much, because I know that I have given my phone number to some organizations on campus, and they called me like an insane amount of times. So like once for the meeting is probably good. And then, so these are how to answer the frequently asked questions. So you're often going to get some questions, of course, when you're asked about HOSA, and you definitely don't need to be an expert to answer them, especially if you've have never been a HOSA member before, and this is something that you're newly interested in. So what is HOSA? The elevator speech. This can be something I would definitely kind of craft this on your own, because it's obviously going to be different for everyone through personal experience, but I would be sure to touch on these specific points. So that it's an international student-led organization. Do not forget this one. Student-led is super important for HOSA. And then the mission is to empower future healthcare professionals. Is kind of the brunt of it, and kind of like the main thing of HOSA, and how it becomes different from, like, say, like knitting club. Like it's like main purpose. And then service, community, competition, leadership, and innovation. Those are the things that we kind of do within HOSA. And then this kind of leads into what exactly do you do like in HOSA? And this can be different for every chapter. So be sure to know the goals that you personally have, because some chapters may, want to do specific service projects that other chapters don't. So you just want to know the goals that you have. And especially because you're starting out, there's going to be things that other chapters are doing that you just might not be able to do yet, just because of like the amount of members that you have and other things. So all chapters should strive to complete service projects and attend your state conferences. So that's something that you can kind of talk about, things that you would be doing within HOSA. And then how much does it cost? So the state cost is $10 and then national is $10. So together is $20 for your dues that you have to pay to become a registered member. And then school dues can be decided based on your chapter's need after establishing your chapter. I would say $10 is kind of like a baseline number that should cover any costs. It just depends on how much funding you're going to be able to get from your school. So like the $10 can cover anything as far as like pizza for meetings, but obviously like traveling and like state and fall leadership conferences are going to bring additional costs. So I would definitely talk about that as well. But they're fully voluntary events and they're not required within HOSA membership. So it is not, you don't need to attend state and fall leadership conference if they're concerned about that being like a financial issue. But also you can apply for funding through your school to help out for that. All right. First meeting. So kind of like going over the timeline, I would say you're gonna want to, the reason why you're not gonna like establish your presence on campus and then have your first meeting is because you need people to establish like your chapter. And so you want to like recruit and like have a first kind of general meeting before you do that affiliation process. So you're going to want to find a place. It shouldn't be too difficult at all to find a place to do this, just because colleges are normally very large and there should be enough resources for you to find a meeting space. So you can look on your school's organizations page or go through the library. Just find someone. There will be someone that you can talk to on campus that can help you figure out somewhere to meet. Oops, sorry. This chat is in my way. Okay. All right. And then you want to advertise and send out information to all of the contacts that you've collected. So you can do that just by either like a meeting or sorry, not a meeting, like an email. You can make an email list. And then also on social media as well. And then at the meeting, you want to have an attendance sheet so you can collect names and additional contact information for anybody that may have, that you don't already have their contact information for. So somebody that might have come like through word of mouth, or then also like flyers that they saw. And you want to be sure to make it engaging, whether that is like giving out pizza or like making sure you're playing music. You want to give them that push to join so that they feel comfortable. I know that anytime I've gone so far to like a new club and like I've just been interested in joining, if I was able to talk to other people and it felt fun, it made me way more inclined to join. Make them feel welcome. Just walk around when everyone's kind of coming in, introduce yourself personally, and kind of chat before you officially start the meeting. And then also you can do some icebreakers. This can be anything you want. You can look on Pinterest. You can just look on the internet, like anything that you personally that stands out to you that you want to do. And then at the first meeting in your slides, be sure to explain what HOSA is, because these are all more than likely going to be new members. And I'm sure you're definitely going to get some people that did it in high school, but then you're also going to get a lot of people who don't have any idea what HOSA is. So just touch on our main goals: so competition, service, leadership, community building, and innovation. And then state your personal goals for the chapter. What do you personally want to see? And then be sure to talk about chapter establishment and make sure that they know that these are the things that we have to get done before we're fully established, because that could be kind of, they're going to be questioning like the things that they personally need to do. And so just talk about like how we have to get affiliated with your school, state, and national. And then discuss officer team establishment. So I have a whole nother section about that, but that's just, you want to touch on how you need an officer team, especially if you're going at this like fully solo, that you're going to need to there. If anyone's interested, kind of spark that initially. And then after the first meeting, you're going to want to definitely send out an email thanking everybody for coming. This is kind of just common courtesy. And then it also just helps them feel seen, like, that you are glad that they came and then you appreciate their time. And then summarize the business of the meeting, everything that you kind of went over, just as a refresher. And then include all information about officer team positions, including their responsibilities. And if you want to have a smaller meeting for the prospective team members, be sure to set that date and time and include that in the summary. I think that that's a great idea. I think that it helps just kind of keep everything more cohesive to have a meeting so that people that are specifically interested in being on the officer team can attend. And then also include the date, time, and place for the second meeting. All right, so now we're going to talk about establishing an officer team. So hitting the ground running with a committed team is super important. So this is the officer team checklist. So a HOSA chapter definitely cannot run without a team. You cannot do this solo. It's just really, not only is it hard to do, but you actually can't do it because you need at least 5 people. So you need some fellow motivated peers to help you out, and it becomes much easier when it's not all on your shoulders. So yeah, you need at least 5 team members. This is for not only like state and national, but also I know specifically at UW, you can't establish a club unless you have 5 participating members. So you just want to try and find 5 people, and then also that can be your officer team, but also you don't need 5. Your 5 people don't necessarily have to be your officer team, but it would be great to have like 5 people that are your officer team. But if you only have like 3 people that want to be officers, but 2 people that are just members, then you should be able to establish your chapter. And then you want to establish the roles and responsibilities. And so in the post-webinar summary, I'm going to give a file with the official positions from hosa.org. So that's like president, vice president, historian, that kind of stuff. And then those roles and responsibilities are going to be different for every chapter. It's kind of something that you just have to decide, and then you want to like decide as a team. And then you should create an application. Even though like you're first starting out and like you want to get as many people on the officer team as you can to like fill it, you might not necessarily need to like have an application. You might think you don't need an application, but you just want to make sure that you're placing people in the roles like appropriately, and it's not going to be kind of not like a competition kind of thing or like a full-on like election. It's just more to be able to get to know them, because these are the people that you're going to be working with for a year or longer, and so you just want to get to know them and include questions that show more than just like their on-paper qualities, like resume qualities, and more about like who they are and like things that they're interested in, their hobbies and stuff like that. And then, yeah, if you want to have a small meeting with all applicants prior to the second meeting, or you can conduct the business all at once at the second meeting. And then moving on to the second general meeting. So this would be not the like officer meeting. you're gonna want to elect your officer team just to get things rolling. I would definitely make your decisions prior to the meeting. Don't not like conducting it as like at the meeting, but like electing them at the meeting, if that makes sense. But so due to the nature of starting a new chapter, you may not have a large enough membership to hold a proper election with voting and stuff, and that's okay. I know that a lot of chapters do the voting thing, but you're starting out new, so you're not really going to be, more than likely not going to be able to do voting. And so you can just elect your team based on your own judgment, or if you have somebody else that's working with you, both of you guys or more, you just want to try your best to be fair and take all your chapter goals into consideration when delegating this. Just seeing who would fit best and who wants to be in a specific position. And like if you run into a situation where maybe you have two people applying for one position, but you have an open spot, definitely reach out to them and be like, would you be interested in doing this position instead? Be sure to express your gratitude, all that kind of stuff, because they're definitely a big integral part of this and helping you get started. And you can let the team know beforehand, or you can announce positions at the meeting. It's definitely up to you. I know it kind of builds like an excitement factor to announce it at the meeting, but then for another club that I'm in, they told us before, so we knew going in that it would be announced, which was also nice too, but it's really just honestly up to you. And then I would also go over the HOSA handbook, just so members know kind of the rules and stuff of being a HOSA member, and that will be included in the summary as well, and it's online. And then if you want to have that officer meeting, or no, though this will be the, like, once you've established your team, you want to have like a second officer meeting before the third meeting. So yeah, do very thorough introductions, like have maybe like fun like icebreaker questions that helps you get to know your team the best that you can in the first meeting. And then bonding, you guys are going to be working together all year, so you want to start creating connections to be able to, more than maybe just like a wave like outside of class, to be able to like feel comfortable enough to like go up and talk to each other. And then I would definitely recommend creating your program of work at your first officer meeting. So this is basically like a month-by-month plan of the work that you want to accomplish. And then it helps you kind of keep track of big events like state or fall leadership conference. And you can also delegate like who's going to be doing what each month. And so I definitely think a program of work is the way to go to organize what you want to get done. All right, now we're going to talk about advisor recruitment. So this is guidance and help from a faculty member on campus. So where to start? To establish a HOSA chapter, you do need a dues paying advisor from your school. So one way that you can do this is by getting contacts and emailing like every health or science related faculty and staff member. And then in your email, you kind of want to do a similar process of recruiting members. So explaining what HOSA is, explaining the mission, explaining the goals that you personally have for your chapter, and be sure to express that HOSA is student-led, and then outline all the responsibilities and costs associated with being an advisor, and make sure that they know that this is a new chapter that you're starting. You can also talk to faculty members face-to-face. This could be a professor that you have or somebody that you just personally have a connection with on campus. I think that in face-to-face can kind of be, because like an email, your professors, or all professors, are very busy and they're getting emails all the time. So it can be easy for that to just kind of get lost and them not have any interest in it. But if you're talking to them face to face and they kind of see your personal excitement, I personally think that might be a better way to go. But I know it's hard because, especially if they're not your professor, it can be kind of awkward to just like walk into you can't necessarily just like walk into their class. So that can be a little bit harder, but you can just try both. You can try whatever one you want to personally do. And then these are how to answer any like frequently asked questions that prospective advisors are probably going to have. So what's the benefit of being a HOSA advisor? Being an advisor allows you to aid students on their path to being a healthcare professional and gives them like extra involvement within the healthcare community. Because like through HOSA, we get like updates about the things that are happening within the healthcare community and stuff like that through email. And then what is a time commitment? So as HOSA is a student-led organization, the time commitment should be pretty low. They shouldn't be required to come to all meetings and stuff like that. And then the officer team should be doing most, if not all, paperwork. Sorry for that typo. Beyond the initial affiliation. So they're going to have a pretty big part in getting your chapter affiliated at the state and national level. But beyond that, that kind of stuff should fall, the rest of the stuff should fall within your officer team. But they, are encouraged to attend service projects and kind of just be involved if they really want to be. And then attending state as your chaperone. But at the post-secondary level, our state advisor can be the chaperone as well. And then, are there any costs associated with being an advisor? Advisors do also have to pay the combined $20 for the state and national dues. And then you can also, I know that some chapters that I know have done this, that you can choose to pay these for your advisor through like the school related fee, like that $10. This kind of gives more incentive for them to become your advisor, because it can be hard to find an advisor. So you can kind of choose to do that for them as a thank you for being their advisor. And then travel costs may be included if they do choose to join you at any of the conferences. And then advisor resources. So there's many resources available at whosa.org as well as hosa.org. Through the affiliation process, they will get the necessary information needed and the contacts that they'll need throughout the school year. But you just want to find someone who is excited to work with you and your chapter and that really understands HOSA. So that's kind of on your part to make sure that they understand what HOSA is. And also, I think that if you find at all anyone that you personally know that is maybe a HOSA alumni, that is a great person to reach out to first, because they're going to understand and they're probably going to be more inclined to help you, but that they don't have to know what HOSA is at all. That's kind of on you to give them that push to understand what HOSA is and get them excited about it. All right, so moving on to school affiliation. So this is working with your school's student organization team to create your presence on campus. So I think obviously every school is going to be different. At UW, we call it our RSOs. So you just want to use your personal resources that you have to make the process smooth and stress-free. Hopefully they have a bunch of resources to help you in this process, so it won't be super stressful. I would just start on your school's website, browse and enter keywords such as club, leadership, union. The kind of hub should pop up to get started with that. And then you could also find the student organization's office on campus. Just go to your directory and they'll be able to give you all the information that you need. Utilize your officer team to help you get this done. If they know somebody that's in a club or that's a club and an officer for a club, then talk to them, pick their brains, ask them how they did it, and then be sure to start early in the semester or the quarter. You don't necessarily, if you can't get the ball rolling like first semester, you have a lot of things going on, but you still want to start a HOSA chapter, you should be able to do that like second semester, second quarter, but you want to start early within that semester or quarter because there will be deadlines, so you don't want to have that be an issue. And then once you've affiliated your chapter with your school, you're going to have access to resources that'll make running your new chapter a lot easier. So some of these include ability to table activities fairs. This is something that UW specifically does. And then funding, you can apply for funding for going to state, holding service projects or anything that you might need help with. Craft supplies, a new chapter email, if they should be able to give you your own personal email so that you can start emailing not from your own personal email and do it like as a team. And then you should be able to get more access to places to hold your meetings. All right, and then the last step as far as establishing your chapter is national and state affiliation. So the state affiliation checklist is it's intertwined within the national affiliation. So you're going to want to work with your advisor. They're going to be the ones that's doing this. So you can give them the access to the affiliation packet, which I'll include in the summary, and then have them follow these steps below. So they're going to call Elizabeth. She's our Washington HOSA executive director, and she's also in this meeting as well. And she's going to be able to help me answer any questions that you guys have. So her number is here, and then we'll include all of this in the summary as well. And this information is all online as well. So you can email her or call her to request a charter number and a password. So this will give you access to the affiliation system. And then with that information, your local advisor can begin the affiliation process by going to the link that I will include in the summary. And it's also online. And they're going to enter that, and then they'll kind of go through that process. And then if you have any if they have any questions, you can call HOSA headquarters. You could do this with them, like be with them while they're doing this, maybe to just learn and then make it easier, just so you kind of know what's going on. I'll answer that question at the end. But yeah, I think it would be beneficial to kind of do it together, but they are the ones that will have to do the like calling Elizabeth or emailing her to do the affiliation. And then national affiliation. So once you made contact with Elizabeth, she'll give you the necessary information for your national affiliation. The state and national affiliation are kind of intertwined, but once you gain access, you'll be able to go into the HOSA apps, and then that's when you can start registering your members. You can pay your dues, and then that's where you'll be able to sign up for state and fall leadership conferences, be able to do proctoring for the test for state, and all that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that anyone who is interested in being a dues paying member to collect their membership fees as soon as possible. All right, so after that, your chapter is affiliated. Where do we go now? Some general guidance. Now that you're an established chapter, you have access to being able to come to Fall and State Leadership Conference. Further from that, the International Leadership Conference. You'll get information about the National Service Project so that you can be in the running for that kind of stuff. But it's really up to your chapter to decide your involvement at the state level and as well as within your chapter. So you don't have to go to Fall Leadership Conference and you don't have to go to state, but these are the big things that Washington HOSA puts on that we encourage all of our members to try and attend, because this is like how us as Washington HOSA reaches out to you guys. And this is how you really make your connections like within this state and outside of your own chapter. So service, blood drives are a super common thing that a lot of chapters do. They're super effective, I personally think, and I love doing blood drives. And most HOSA chapters work with BloodWorks and American Red Cross. So you can just reach out to them, go through their website, or just call them personally. I think sometimes it's a lot easier just to call to get that information, because speaking to someone, it's just a lot easier. And then you could do like a food or clothing drive. It's also simple and a great way to provide services to others. You could do, like we've done, making cards and giving them to the Children's Hospital. Like it's really up to you how many service projects you want to do. If you really want to do like a really large one, instead of having like one like every month, then you could do that. Or you could have one, every month, or just like one really big one like every 2 months. It's really up to you. And then the fun stuff, so bonding activities like socials and stuff like that, or study sessions, like for like finals and midterm study sessions. This kind of helps if you guys are probably going to be in similar classes. And so if you guys are studying together, it's always really nice to have somebody who's in the same class as you to study with. And it just creates a deeper connection within your chapter. And this is all really dependent on the time commitment that your chapter personally wants to have. And so fall and state leadership conferences are two statewide conferences, and they're an amazing way to build connections all over the state. And they provide vital resources for career building and discovery within HOSA, especially at state. We have so many workshops that you can attend. So this year, FLC, we have two FLC, which is the first time that we've done this. So we're going to have one at Eastern Washington University on October 28th, and then Western Washington University on November 18th. So it's really kind of dependent on where you sit within Washington of which one you're more than likely going to be going to. You could go to both, you could go to either, but it's just more of like the travel thing. So getting funding for that, you want to try to start early to get funding through your school to be able to go. But you want to be sure to stay aware of updates for each conference that will be put out by Washington HOSA. And then State Leadership Conference, this is going to be in Spokane. Should be at the conference center or the convention center, March 14th through the 16th. I would start preparing for this in December. So the first thing you want to do is apply for funding for your school to make sure that you're able to cover the travel costs so that you can go, and then start picking your competitive events. And then the updates that Washington HOSA will give out about registration costs, when you can sign up for testing, all that stuff. Just be sure to be in the loop about that. And then as far as competitive events, like we have online that you can pick, and then I would definitely try to start like studying early for that, especially in college. Like you want to start early just because you're going to be like juggling college classes as well as like studying for these competitive events. So just try to start as early as you can, making your meetings around this time kind of centered towards state if you guys can go and if you do want to go. If you're not going to be going, that's totally fine. You don't have to start centering your meetings around state. All right. And the main thing I want to leave you guys with is to have fun with this process. I know this seems like so much information and probably like a really long process. So just don't get lost in the fact that you have to do all of this. Try to think of the bigger picture of like, this is going to be a great leadership opportunity for me. I'm going to be able to create connections. I'm eventually going to be able to pass this on. So when I'm out of college, like they can keep this going. So just like have fun. Don't stress too much about it. Like we are here to help you. I'm here to help you. And so I don't want that to be a factor that like takes all the fun out of it. So now I'm going to answer some questions that you guys have. I'll start with, thank you, Liz. I didn't know that we moved the Western Conference. All right, so I'm going to start with the questions in the chat. UW does have an official HOSA chapter, so you can join that. UW's official Instagram is official UW HOSA. I can put that in the summary as well. But yeah, we do have that, and we're working on getting our new officer team established right now. And then what should the Constitution look like? Do you mean like the bylaws? Victor. Yeah, the bylaws. Liz, did you want to touch on that? Because I know I kind of saw mixed things about the bylaws and whether or not we still have to do that.
Yeah, so for a lot of schools, the state, because of CTE requirements, requires that they have some sort of bylaws or constitution on file. What I recommend is taking a look at the Washington HOSA bylaws, and honestly just sort of copying that document and then replacing the information so that it's relevant for your chapter, and just going through it and changing the things that don't necessarily match. You can also look on the HOSA website, and they have some guidance in their new advisor section. So you would be able to take a look at those resources, and I shared a link in the chat, and it does have like under step 5 tips for writing bylaws, the HOSA bylaws, and then sample bylaws for local chapters. So you can take a look at that and then utilize that for your chapter.
Perfect. Thank you, Liz. Yeah, so I'll include the one document that we have of the Washington HOSA bylaws in the summary. But yeah, it really is kind of based on your chapter, but it it's not. I think that kind of seems intimidating, the bylaws, because it's like really long, but it shouldn't be scary. Let's see. Yeah, so I think that honestly, like as a freshman, I would, like, since you have the interest now, I would start going on the website and seeing what you have to do for your school affiliation, because if the kind of deadlines are are super early within the quarter, then you might want to use that first month to do your first meeting, and then establish in your second meeting and establishing your officer team, and then using the second quarter to meet any deadlines for like your school affiliation, because I know that like at UW there's kind of we have these Zoom meetings that we have to attend that are within the first couple weeks of the quarter, and that's how you establish your presence on campus. But you have to have 5 people to do it at that point. So you could definitely use the first quarter to have your first and second meeting, get as many members as you can, and get your 5 people and like establish your officer team, and then use the second quarter to start doing your school affiliation and your state and national affiliation. But that definitely just kind of depends on the deadlines that your school specifically has. But you don't really want to rush it. And I think that you can use that. I mean, a quarter is only like 3 months. So you could definitely do that. But if you're on a semester system, you should have enough time within the first semester to get it all done. See, what's some advice for every officer position interested in being an officer? I think that definitely just kind of read the rules and responsibilities that I'll put in the summary for each position, but it's definitely going to be different for your chapter. So if you only have, like, let's say you have your 5 members, but you only have 3 people that want to be on the officer team, just initially to start, and then you can get more people that are interested in being an officer throughout the year. But if there's only like 3 of you in the beginning, there's going to be more work than like each position can necessarily like fill based on the guidelines that are going to be the guidelines that I'm going to give you in the summary. So it doesn't have to be like specific to that. I would say kind of just what everyone's interested in. So if someone who's really good like with social media and that kind of stuff, like historian, like it's really, or as a president, if you want to still have like access to that kind of stuff, or like obviously you're going to be overseeing that kind of stuff, but as a team, especially like with Washington HOSA, like the state officer team, we do everything together. Like we have our specific like roles, but as a state officer team, we do everything together. So that I think is something that is great to implicate within a team, just because you guys are a team, and so you want to fall back on each other, and you want to make sure that the work isn't falling on one person or somebody's not doing enough. So yeah, I would say don't focus too much necessarily on positions, especially when starting out. Just focus on creating a solid team. See, does the same state affiliation process apply for starting a middle school HOSA chapter? I believe so. Liz, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, so the steps are basically the same. The only difference is that for the middle school chapters, your teacher or your advisor would need to be a little bit more involved, just because we want to make sure that you're following all your school rules and making sure that you're, making a teacher aware that you're wanting to start this chapter, but the steps are very similar. It really is just contacting me, making sure that you have an adult or an advisor, and then we get that set up. And the same thing for a high school chapter. So as long as you have a teacher that's willing to be your advisor and 5 students that are willing to be members, whether that's your officer or executive team or just 5 friends that you have, you can contact me, make sure that you CC your teacher or your advisor, and then we can get you set up with a chapter.
Yeah, so especially with that like advisor part of it, of course, like when you're in college, you guys are adults. So it's more of, you guys have a little bit more like freedom with like not needing your advisor to do more things for you, which is nice. Especially as like trying to recruit an advisor, because college faculty members, they have a lot more going on, because like high school, you know, teachers, I feel like they have a lot of students, but they definitely have less than, you know, like a college professor. So that is more incentive to push that as well. And then can the college chapters be part of competition? Yes, definitely. So we don't compete with we compete at our own level. So we compete at the post-secondary level. So we're not competing with the high schoolers. So we're competing as like the colleges together, or within each other. So that's why we really want to increase our post-secondary membership, because we don't really have any competition right now within each other, because we only have, like last year, UW was the only like established post-secondary membership. So we want to make more so that we can actually have that competition, and then be able to, you know, bring a larger post-secondary presence to ILC as well. All right, so I think that was all the questions answered in the chat. If anybody has any more questions, you guys can go ahead and unmute yourself or raise your hand if you just wanted to get those answered.